Okay, let's take a look at this. Okay, let's have a quick look. Set up right. Okay, I've not done a live stream in a little while, so I'm just going to do a quick bit of drawing this morning. I've been working on some concept art for a project. Just double check everything's on here. Sweet, cool. There we go. Okay, kind of kick things off. It's a custom brush I use for most sort of early sketching. We just want to kind of block in a few kind of interesting shapes. The idea with this initially is just to draw your eye in, just create kind of a nice flow to the drawing. I have kind of in mind the sort of thing I want to do, although I mean that might change as we go along. So this is going to be a landscape, kind of a sci-fi landscape, with these weird blob-like structures, sort of organic structures. So growing up, turning into these big sort of weird balls at the top. Let's throw in a few bits of kind of alien-y bits and pieces to see where we get. Let me double check these streams are working. Okay, cool. It's going to spend about half an hour on this. I mean, a lot of the times in the morning, if I've got a day where I'm going to be working on illustration stuff for whatever project it is, I like to spend just sort of half an hour sketching up some ideas, just kind of warm-up sketches. It's pretty much what this is, although this is kind of part of a wider project that I'm working on. I've been working on for the last sort of few weeks. Still in the early stages, just knocking a few ideas together. Okay, so with this, initially we've just got kind of this loose brush. You can see sort of the shape on there. If I knock the size up, this is the basic shape of the brush. It's a deliberately loose brush, so it feels like you're not getting perfectly crisp lines. You're getting a bit of variation in the thickness of the lines you're drawing. Also stick it down to somewhere between 40 and 60% opacity when I'm drawing. Just a single layer to begin with, just while I'm sketching in the basic layouts. That's kind of where we want to be. Select a slightly darker shade, because I know I want something to kind of draw the eye in around here, which is a set of steps. Again, and this go a little bit darker on those. Again, these just serve to draw your eye into the illustration and add a little bit of flow to it. So we've got an entranceway. basically want these kind of quite organic shapes running through the whole thing, but a combination of almost like man-made structures, like the stairs that have been built around these weird organic shapes. Okay, that's kind of getting there. Let's get a few more sort of flowing shapes in here. Get a bit of interest in the background as well. A lot of the time if I'm working on concept art like this, I'll sketch up 50, 60, 70 different drawings along the same sort of lines, but just trying slightly different things each time. So on these you can see the steps are kind of suspended by these kind of sort of vertical beams come down to the ground. In another variation, I might kind of mix it up and bring them in at different angles. I might kind of do slightly different styles of steps. Slightly different styles of the orbs. So I end up with a lot of different things to look at. And then you can sort of pick and choose. You can go back in and rework sections of the illustrations. Which is why initially everything's kind of kept nice and loose, nice and free. You don't want to be putting too much detail in. Partly for time, partly because it makes it a hell of a lot more difficult to then edit and make changes to. So you'll notice that at the moment I'm only sticking to things within this colour palette. Blues, blue greys, just to kind of keep a bit of consistency through it all. I'm not worried about colour yet. Colour will come into it later on. But for now it's all about the forms and the shapes and the layout of the illustration. Can worry about colour later on. Okay, so we'll go for a slightly larger brush. Stick it down to the opacity down to around about 30%, because I want to start throwing in a few bits and pieces of heavier shade in there. Again, just to add a little bit of depth. Stick that up to about 48. This just allows me to start adding a little bit of form to these shapes. It's fairly rough for now. There's an area that's just got a bit too much light on it. It's just kind of breaks up the flow of the picture, so I want to block in a lot of this. To be kind of quite clear where these set of steps are going. These are obviously the focal point for the illustration there. Kind of draws your eye in around here. Let's just have a quick check, see who's watching. Won't be a second on this. Okay, probably a couple of people are having a bit of trouble with the YouTube stream. I tend to stream across Facebook and YouTube at the same time. If you are having trouble, sorry, I'll try and fix it by next time. Just let me know what kind of issues you're having. I'll see what I can sort out. Okay, I'm going to start putting in a few more sort of man-made structures here. I want to be very clear that this is almost like a city built around these organic shapes on whatever weird alien planet this is. So these harsher lines of the man-made structures are important for breaking up these organic shapes. This time we're so look, a little bridge across to this. Looks like a rope bridge. There we go. Okay, let's select a Waylighter hue. We're going to stick another layer in the background. Actually start building up a few more of these organic shapes just purely in the background, just blocked in. And this is just all about adding a little bit of depth to the piece. These aren't going to have the same amount of detail as these foreground ones, but they just make it feel like there's a larger landscape, there's more going on. Okay, switch back over to the top layer. Add a few more bits of detail on here. I mean, anytime I'm working on a finished illustration, something that I know is going to be used for print or used for a game or whatever it might be, my illustrations can end up being hundreds of layers sometimes. Definitely sort of 20, 30, 40 plus layers. If it's concept art, I try and stick to no more than 2 or 3 layers. One layer being a primary background color that then has kind of the bits and pieces added to it. One layer being the main illustration. So shortly I will combine these 2 layers. Then another layer might be kind of stuck in for little bits of highlights and effects and that kind of stuff. But as much as possible, I try to keep my concept art as close to kind of a real painting as possible. Because it's those organic shapes, it's those kind of mistakes really that make them quite interesting. Let's go get some really dark colours here, almost black, but still on the blue spectrum. I'm just going to start sticking in a few of these really dark, heavy contrast areas to really make some of these structures pop out. Yes, just layering up the colours, layering up the shading, exactly the same as you would with the watercolour painting, really. Okay, over this area, I want to get something that's a little bit different to the rest of it. This is where I've got kind of some broken old structures, sort of telephone masts, that kind of stuff jutting out. Just to add a little bit of foreground focus. You'll notice that for this whole thing so far, I've not actually changed the brush at all. Changed the size of the brush, but the brush I'm using is exactly the same. So however you have your keyboard set up, personally I have a little mini gaming keyboard set up next to my main keyboard that is coded with shortcuts, specifically for Photoshop. So instead of faffing about with the full keyboard, I've got a little gaming keyboard next to me where I can resize the brush, where I can use shortcuts to sort of resize things, move things around, to edit things, to undo. This makes it a little bit easier. Most of my work, digital work anyway, is done in Photoshop. I use a Wacom Cintiq 24HD. Doesn't really matter what you use whatever you're comfortable with. So I started using Wacom years and years back. I've never really veered away from them. They're awesome. I got just add in a bit more depth there. Okay, this is coming together quite nicely now. Section over here to the left still needs a little bit more attention. Still kind of some, just to tighten up a few of these lines, still a few areas that don't look look a bit neglected. So here we go, we'll just get in and add a little bit more structure to this. Getting with a bit more of the shading around here. We don't want this as dark as some of the foreground items because we don't want your eye to be drawn away from these ones over here in the center. Again, using the same palette, exactly the same palette. We're going to start throwing in a few highlights, a few more kind of softer shapes, breaking up this. All these very kind of crisp semicircle oval type shapes. Again, keeping that man-made feel, but without it being all completely harsh lines. There we go. So stick that in. We'll purely go for some black down here. Get some really heavy contrast in. A few more of these structures, just making a little bit more sense. Start adding in a few sort of finer details. Kind of want these lights running all the way along the side here. So we'll stick these in. Bring the brush down really small. Get a few sort of wires thrown in. Again, this kind of slightly more flowing shape, just to helps to break up the illustration slightly. Bring these in. This is something I want to kind of add across the whole lot. Is these structures, as organic as they are, I want them to have kind of almost like radio masts. Again, like almost like people have taken over these organic structures and added their own bits and pieces to them. A lot of this over on the left, it's just a suggestion of shapes. It's a suggestion of what's going on. There's no real detail in there. I really bother about getting too much in there at the moment. I'm going to stick in a few white highlights, just here and there, again to pick out a few of these finer details. A bit more fencing back here. Okay, right, we're going to switch out here. I'm going to stick in an extra layer, and we're going to throw in a bit of background color here. So what we're going to do is foreground layer, select a nice kind of vibrant blue. Background layer, select blue on the same palette, but we're going to go nice and dark. Up here, you've got your brush, so your fill tool, paint bucket tool. We're going to switch over to the gradient tool. We're just going to bang in a rough gradient there. Okay. Now you can see how that works. Now, I don't want anywhere near that harshness, and I kind of want this weird sort of glow in the background as well. So we're going to switch across to a really low opacity, around about 24–25%. Soft round brush, and it's nice and big. I want to start blocking in some of these. I just start sticking a bit of the highlights behind the city. Very loose to begin with. Okay, cool. On the same way, I want to go really dark. I want to go way back down to around about 11%. And we're going to stick in some of the darker colours up here to get a little bit more interest in the sky. See on the brushes down here, I've got some thousands of brushes. Let's have a quick look. Air particles, this is what I wanted. So again, we're just mixing up the background a little bit. We don't want it to look quite so neat and clean. So we're throwing in a few speckles. Kind of quite dark to begin with. Here we go. Let's throw in a few lighter ones as well. Just makes it a little bit more interesting to look at. Stick a couple over in white. There we go. Okay, now ahead of this layer, I'm going to join those two front layers first of all. Again, sticking it down to 3 layers as much as possible. I want to actually get some colour in behind these because at the moment these are just kind of the outlines. So we're going to go back to my favourite brush, which is right up here, and start throwing in a few few colours. Stick this up to around about 70, 80%. Actually want a little bit more grey than that. There we go. Start blocking in a few of these shapes. Making sure we've got these really nice organic shapes going on that stand out from the background. Again, by keeping the brush always semi-opaque, I'd very rarely use 100% opacity on the brush. Because there's no room to move then. You've basically just blocked out whatever it is you're drawing. By keeping it even 70, 80%, it just adds a little bit more interest. It just means gives you a bit more freedom. It's a little bit more like painting naturally than it would be with a fully opaque brush. Okay, let's just stick a few more colours in there. We're going to go down to lower opacity again. Really want these structures to feel solid, but kind of like just growing up out of the ground. Okay, yeah, I'm going to merge those layers down. So at the moment we've got this top layer, we've got the background layer, and that's it. I'm going to stick one more on for now because I want to get in with some really heavy contrast. So right down, fully black. Opacity up to 77, around about anywhere between sort of 70 and 8% is fine. And we start putting in some of these areas of heavy shading, just to make this certain areas really pop out. Literally anywhere the light can't get to. So you got a little bit down there. I want to get a bit more shading in there. This will also help kind of pop out this little shape we've got going on. There we go. I want to get a little bit in the doorway. Again, just a little bit more underneath these structures. Getting right in under here, where the shade is going to be heavier. While we're at it, we can stick in a few smaller details. Again, at this stage, it's all about just adding a little bit of flow to the illustration, making things seem a little bit more believable. So you've got a few details of fences and lights and buildings. I'm also going to look at sticking in a few other bits and pieces. So we've got some vehicles. So just a suggestion of some sort of futuristic moon buggy type alien vehicles kind of going up the road there. Got the same up in the sky up here. I kind of want this okay, here we go. Still a few areas that need these darker lines added in just to make them pop out. Quite like that. So there's plenty of times we'll try something like that. It'll just look terrible. You can quickly delete it and I'll draw over it. I quite like how those look. Just kind of mix it up a little bit. Okay. Go get another doorway in there. We still needs to be something down here. This isn't really section of the illustration, just feels like it needs something. You know this yourself when you're drawing. If you spot something that needs something else adding in, just add it in. Just experiment if you like this. If you need to, stick it in as a separate layer, and then delete it if it doesn't work. And that's the beauty of working digitally. You can sort of swap and change things as you see fit. Again, working in this style, I'll often not delete layers if something's gone wrong. I'll draw over it. So I like to try to keep it, like I say, as organic as possible. But everybody works in slightly different ways. Just want to throw in a few, almost like telegraph poles with the wires jutting around. That's a nice way of breaking up the illustration. Okay, now this is the last little bit to kind of throw in. Just going to stick that in there. I want to add in a few sort of lighting effects. Okay, now you've seen that I've added in a few places where the lights are going to be already. So what we do, stick another layer on. This will be our light layer. Excuse me. I'm just going to start throwing in pure white. Again, on about 70% opacity, so you don't want it kind of full. Stick the brush down anywhere where these lights are going to be in. Okay, and then with this, we also want to go across to a soft round brush, bring that in. Kind of want a decent size on this. Stick it down to opacity of around about 22%. We're going to stick in a bit of the glow on these lights. And nothing too precise. Let's just give a suggestion of the light. And then this is where custom brushes come in quite nicely. Let's see where we are. When you can find them. Bit of a spatter brush. There we go. Again, just throwing a bit of broken light around there. We're going to go in slightly off shade, and this is where we throw in a slightly different shade of blue. Again, just helps to add a little bit of interest to the illustration rather than being fully on that same palette all the time. Stick back to my old favorite. Put a few highlights on these. Get a little window on there. A bit of light from the engines. little bit of glow from the back. A little bit of haze underneath where this thing's flying in. And then finish this off. Yeah. And there we go. Quick kind of 30-40 minute concept art sci-fi landscape. Okay, thanks for watching, and I'll see you again next time.